warm welcome to you all. I'd also like to thank in particular the companies, representatives who've come here today and have set up a fine array of tabletop and banner stands behind you, and I'm sure most of you already found them, but we will encourage you to take advantage of talking to those people during the course of the day. This is your day, so please engage and enjoy. As Sonia says, this is the fifth seminar. It just seems to go from strength to strength. We are fully booked with 150 people here today and with a waiting list. We have a wide range of delegates, including developers, the supply chain, the research sector, consultants and public sector authorities, and of course community groups. So it's the full gambit of anybody who really has an interest in the marine renewable sector. We would particularly like to thank those who've travelled some distance to be here with us today. Delegates coming from Scotland, Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, from London, from the southwest of England, from Sweden, and not least the west coast of the United States. It's all happening in Pembrokeshire, and California knows about it. So we started off last evening with a very nice informal dinner with some 50 so members of you here today, having an informal dinner, a very nice evening, with a port tour kindly hosted by the Port of Milford Haven, which we are very grateful for. We're especially grateful to the Welsh Government for their support and sponsorship for the event, so thank you indeed for that. The event itself, I mean, what we're here to do today is really to provide you with an update on the current position of the marine energy industry, not only in Pembrokeshire, but in Wales and in the wider UK, given delegates coming from other parts of our nations, and really to discuss the current position and how we think things will move forward over the coming years. It is an exciting time. Things are really starting to happen now, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about that today. We have a full agenda. We have organised panel sessions rather than regular or constant talking sessions. There will be a number of presentations from key stakeholders to kick us off, but then we move into the panel sessions, and really I just want to repeat the invitation to you to engage and participate and contribute to these sessions. We're going to talk about the progress of developers and developments in the industry. We're going to talk about support and supply infrastructure, and then we're going to have a session on consenting and the research programme. So we have enjoyed over the years, the 5 years or so that we've been doing this event, really consistent and quite excellent political support in going forward. And today is no exception. I'm delighted to welcome here today Mr. Alun Davies, who is the Minister in the Welsh Government for Natural Resources and Food. Alun is going to set the scene for us with the political landscape, but before I bring him to the podium, I'd just like to give you a little bit of background about Alun and what he brings to our event here today. I mean, he was elected to the National Assembly in May 2007. He's from Treviga and was educated at the University College of Wales in Aberystwyth. After graduating, he was elected President of the National Union of Students for Wales, and then worked as a campaigner for the Worldwide Fund for Nature, Oxfam, and included a number of international assignments in places such as Rwanda and the Balkans. Alun has enjoyed a successful career in industry before going into full-time politics. He was with Haida PLC as Public Relations Manager before being appointed Head of Public Affairs at the UK Atomic Energy Authority. Prior to being elected, he was director of his own business as well, Butte Communications, and he has worked throughout Europe and the Middle East, has been a regular speaker at international seminars and conferences, so he comes with an excellent pedigree, really. Following his re-election to the National Assembly in 2011, he was appointed the Deputy Minister for Agriculture, Food, Fisheries and European Programmes, and in March of last year was appointed Minister for Natural Resources and Food, and it's in that context that we're delighted to welcome him here today. I had a quick look on the website, and in terms of his responsibilities, they are extensive. I think there were 33 bullet points of responsibilities in that portfolio, but I just picked out some key words such as responsibility for cross-cutting measures of mitigation and adaptation in relation to climate change, control of marine pollution in Welsh waters, marine biodiversity and natural conservation, energy policy, small to medium scale energy production, controls, has an interest in the activities of Natural Resources Wales, and the protection of wildlife in Wales in general. So all these topics and subjects are really core to why we're here today. So without further ado, I'd be delighted to invite the Minister to come and give us his keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'm particularly grateful you managed to make that introduction more an introduction than an obituary. It's actually a year ago today I was appointed to the Cabinet, so I'm due to be axed before long. You know, when you celebrate an anniversary, it's quite often the opportunity for every journalist in the country to get their pencils out and say, you know, how did he do? And they always use past tense, don't they? But thank you very much, Martin, and thank you to Tony as well for the introductions here. It really is a pleasure to be able to join you this morning and to join the day, and to, I hope, leave you with a couple of thoughts from the point of view of the Welsh Government. And can I say, right at the outset, that as a Minister myself and the Government as a whole, we're absolutely committed to this agenda, and we're absolutely determined not only to say that in speeches and to put that in press releases, we're determined not simply to issue strategies and policy documents, but we're absolutely determined to be proactive and to drive forward growth in this sector in Wales and throughout Wales. For many of us, I think energy is a defining issue for our generation and an issue for which we as a government are determined to lead. The ability to provide predictable, reliable power, marine energy will play a vital role in the transition to build a sustainable low-carbon economy in Wales. The numbers of people attending today, I think, is an indication as to, I hope for confidence, but I certainly believe that we have a real commitment to this developing sector. And I think this day is also a testimony to the hard work of Marine and Energy Pembrokeshire in the promotion of the sector and placing Pembrokeshire at the centre of this new and exciting industry. And I think we should be congratulated on the work that you've done over the last few years. And I think certainly as a government, we recognise really the importance of what you're doing and also the way that you do it. I think that's really important. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to say that to you today, but also to look as we move on from today as to how the Welsh Government could continue that support in the future. In terms of where we are, it's clearly true that the energy infrastructure that we have underpins our entire way of life. But it's also true that that system is undergoing profound and fundamental change as we adapt it to meet a range of environmental, economic and social objectives. Those countries that are at the vanguard of a transition to a low-carbon economy will be in a position to exploit significant wealth generation opportunities globally as well as internally. We want to ensure that Wales is in the best position not only to create new jobs and supply chain opportunities, but to take advantage of the potential to export expertise, energy, goods and services. We want Wales to be at the centre of this, and let me say this, as a government, we will take the actions and we will take the decisions that we need to take in order to ensure that we are able to provide the support to the industry to enable that to happen. We believe that the industry should be leading the development of this sector, but we also believe that it's a role of government not to be a spectator or not to be a commentator, not to stand simply on the sidelines saying jolly good here and there, or we'd like to see you do better here and there. But we see government as an activist, playing an activist role, supporting, sustaining and ensuring that businesses and companies are able to exploit the opportunities that you see available to you. And I want to hear from you today as to what you think this government should be doing and where you think this government should be doing more or doing what we do differently in order to provide the sort of support that you require and you need to sustain, support and grow your businesses. Energy policy at the moment, as you know, is shared between the Welsh Government and the UK Government. Now you will also know, particularly those of you who know me, I can see a couple of faces in the audience who have heard me both in private, but perhaps even in public as well, when the frustration is not too great, to understand that it is a source of frustration in some quarters, that we have responsibility for planning decisions on energy applications below 50 megawatts onshore and below 1 megawatt offshore. The Welsh Government has consistently called for the devolution of further powers to Wales to ensure consistency and coherence in policy and direct accountability to the people of Wales. Supporting businesses and developing our industries are key ingredients in shaping a low-carbon Wales. But without the tools of energy consenting powers and the levers to incentivise the right technologies for Wales, the task is made that much more difficult and that much harder, and unnecessarily so. We believe the Welsh Government is best placed to align Wales' energy aspirations with the needs of our communities and of our natural environment. Whilst it's true to say the UK Government has chosen to withhold some of these tools from us to date, it's also pleasing to note that last week the Silk Report recommended a devolution of energy consenting powers up to 350 megawatts and parity with the other devolved administrations in relation to supporting technologies under the new Contracts for Difference regime. We're now in the process of considering the practical implications of these recommendations in the context of meeting our aspirations to see clear benefits for energy projects in Wales. We want to move forward on this very, very quickly. Wales has major infrastructure assets. Our electricity transmission network traverses well-established corridors to the north and south of the country. Our deep sea ports provide access to the energy of our seas. Our gas infrastructure, and notably the two liquefied natural gas terminals at Milford Haven, is an important source of stability during the transition to a low-carbon economy. These are all major assets. They make Wales an attractive location for investment in energy. And one of our flagship projects in the tidal stream sector is Tidal Energy's Energy Limited data stream project. With an £8 million allocation from the structural funds administered by the Welsh European Funding Office, the project will be our first operational tidal device in Wales. The data gathered from the environmental monitoring will help us considerably in understanding the interactions between devices and the marine environment. In the north, marine current turbines have the necessary consents in place to deploy a 10 megawatt tidal array off Anglesey. This £70 million investment will generate enough electricity to power up to 10,000 homes and will be a catalyst for the establishment of a sector in the north of Wales. Can I say this? In March 2012, the Welsh Government published Energy Wales, a low-carbon transition, which outlines our vision for energy in Wales, one that delivers growth and benefits. To aid the delivery of this strategy, the Welsh Government established our Energy Wales programme to work across government and to guide the low-carbon agenda to ensure benefits can be realised. I'm pleased to say that this Energy Programme's delivery plan will be published tomorrow. And when you see that delivery plan, let me say this as well. You will see actions within that delivery plan, you will see responsibilities within that delivery plan, and you will see timetables within that delivery plan. You will see deadlines within that delivery plan, and you will see measurable targets and measurable objectives within that delivery plan. This is not simply something which I want to see published tomorrow and forgotten by Monday, but this is something that I want to see used as an active, live document driving forward work to sustain and support this sector. This is something I've been very, very clear with Welsh Government officials is something that I want to see delivered. I want to see it delivered in a timely way. I want to see it delivered in a proactive, creative, imaginative way. And I want to see reports coming back to me as a minister on a regular basis, telling me what milestones have been achieved, what we can be doing, what we should be doing, what more we can do, and what we're on the directions of travel that we should be moving in. I want this to be a proactive document that continues to support and sustain the growth in the industry and the sector into the future. Since the launch of Energy Wales, we have concentrated our efforts on tackling some of the barriers, the real barriers that we all know exist to prevent and to impede growth. We've worked with the Crown Estate to bring forward test and demonstration zone leasing in Wales for both wave and tidal stream technologies and to investigate market interest in the tidal range. We have completed a study which has estimated the potential economic benefits for Wales from the future development of wave and tidal stream. The study forecast possible economic benefits of the marine energy industry in Wales under 3 timeline scenarios. We're continuing to investigate research, development, and innovation opportunities in offshore renewables, including marine energy. We continue to provide information to the wave and tidal stream sector on the potential development constraints within our key resource areas. We will continue to do this. We have invested £800,000 from the Department for Education Skills Sector Priorities Fund programme to fund new training programmes developed to address immediate skills gaps within the sector and the industry. We've outlined our thoughts, identifying a number of priority areas for our engagement in the sector going forward. We recognise that more needs to be done, and we want to continue the conversation working with the industry to ensure that government continues to be proactive in the future. We will continue to utilise structural funds to support the industry, particularly those identified in the Marine Energy Infrastructure Study, informed through stakeholder consultation. We will continue to pursue the streamlining of consenting regimes in Wales through the planning bill and engagement with partners, in particular Natural Resources Wales. And can I say this, and this is really important, when I talk about the government in Wales, I talk about the government and the whole of governance in Wales. I do not expect the government to support and sustain growth in a sector that is then impeded, prevented and stopped by other parts of the public sector or other parts of our government system in Wales. It is ludicrous for the Welsh Government to set out its vision and its ambitions only for those visions and ambitions to be frustrated by other parts of a system of governance in Wales. This means that the whole of governance and the whole of government in Wales has to deliver on this vision. I will ensure that within my portfolio that happens. I know that other ministers within their portfolio will ensure that that happens as well. And let me ask you this, today and in the future. Where you see barriers, where you see difficulties, where you see public bodies or public authorities stopping, preventing, frustrating you, let me know. Tell me about it. I have been very, very clear in the conversations and discussions that I have had with other public authorities and public bodies in Wales, that this is not simply a hobby horse of an individual minister, but this is the ambition and vision and policy of the government as a whole. We will drive growth in this sector, and if people in public governance in Wales don't want to support that, well, they will have to come to my office and explain to me why exactly they don't want to do that, and they will explain to me why they believe it is not part of their role to deliver on the ambitions and visions of this government. And I will expect a pretty convincing explanation of that. I will be absolutely hard-headed and determined to ensure that we remove barriers for growth. This is too important for our economy. It is too important and fundamental to our ambitions to mitigate and adapt climate change. It is too important for too many of our ambitions and objectives as a government to allow people to prevent and to frustrate these developments from taking place. So we will systematically, not only identify and describe barriers, which we need to do, but we will then dismantle them. And we will use legislation and we will use our powers as a government to do that. And let nobody be under any illusion at all. If people seek to frustrate the growth of renewable energy in Wales, They are not only frustrating the will and vision of this government, they are also frustrating the ambitions of industry and business and the people of this country. And the people of this country who want to see this industry grow and develop as well. And this government will support that, and this government will systematically take away and remove those barriers. So let me say, in closing, we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to centre Wales at this very heart of this growing industry and this growing sector. And this government is determined to do that. Dwi'n falch iawn gael cyfle bod yn weinidog yn gyfnod ble mae yna cyfle I newid. A newid yn hanesyddol be dyn ni eisiau gwneud. Dwi yn hollol sicr o be dwi eisiau gwneud fel gweinidog a fel aelod o'r Llywodraeth yma. I wneud yn sicr bod ni'n newid pob dim dyn ni'n wneud a newid y ffordd dyn ni'n gweithredu fel gwlad a fel Llywodraeth. A mi fyddwn ni yn wneud hyn, mi fyddwn ni'n wneud hyn heddiw, y fori, y mis nesaf, y flwyddyn nesaf, a mi fyddwn ni yn parhau I wneud e. I am absolutely convinced that the renewable sector is an essential part of our future. I am absolutely convinced that government must not be a spectator, but must be an active player. I am absolutely convinced that the work of government must be led by the knowledge, the skills, the expertise of industry and by the ambitions that we all share across the whole of Wales. Thank you very much for the time you spent this morning. Thank you very much for the invitation to join me today. And I hope that together we'll be able to work and ensure that our ambitions and our visions are realised together. Thank you very much.
Inspiring speech, which was really about doing and making things happen, and the leadership that we need, I think, from government has been extremely well displayed in the Minister's speech, so thank you very much indeed. The Minister has very kindly agreed to take a few questions from the floor. We have minutes.
I'm not sure I
Five minutes we have. So, please, a question from the floor.
Minister.
Nigel.
Minister. Minister, my name is Nigel Payne. I am advisor to the board of Harris Pye. I'm a major employer in this part of the world, in South Wales, and as a global company, etc. We are obviously looking at the renewable sector quite closely, and I must compliment you on your confidence and ambitions in the renewable sector. We, as a company, have recently looked at a major project in this part of the renewable sector, and the knock-on effect of creating jobs and so forth. Even we were talking earlier of 250,000 tonnes of steel to be used in a project, a significant project in this part of the world, will be needed. And obviously we're talking with local suppliers of steel. So the knock-on effect of what you're saying is quite considerable in the sector. So I compliment you, Minister, on this. We have the confidence, obviously supporting this sector and using our engineering and fabrication expertise to obviously support and hopefully deliver some projects as well.
Okay. Question? Joe.
Hi there. Joe Kidd from Green Current Turbines. You mentioned our project on Anglesey. Yeah, I think you're probably all well aware that project's been ongoing for quite a number of years now, but we're getting very close to getting financial close on that project. Minister, your words earlier were very refreshing in terms of the support that the Welsh Government has, not only, as you said, speaking in public and in policy, but I think that engagement going forward is really crucial with Welsh Government, and in terms of breaking down those barriers to growth. I think from our point of view, the stage we're at, starting to look at commercial arrays, the real support that Welsh Government could give is probably in replicating the kind of MEP capital grant and formalising that in a similar way to the way the Scottish Government has done with MRCF. But also, if you can get control, some sort of control on CFD and setting strike price, I think it's those two things that will really have a big impact on the growth of the sector in Wales.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right in that analysis. Can I say, I think the Scottish Government has done a great job in all sorts of different ways in order to support and sustain growth of the industry there, and they've had the powers and the ability to do that, of course. And when we acquire these new powers, we will use those powers. These are not powers that are simply going to sit on the statute book. They are powers that will guide and drive the delivery of policy. In terms of where we are at the moment, some of the biggest barriers involve planning, involve consent, involve finance. And for the first two, to a very great and large extent, we have the powers to dismantle those barriers within Wales. We have a planning bill which will streamline the planning system. We have an environment bill which I'm currently drafting and will publish probably in the autumn of this year, and that will ensure that we have a consenting regime which is balanced and which is fair and which enables growth to take place. Because all too often we felt that we sustain the Welsh environment and we protect our natural resources simply by saying no. And by saying no in all sorts of new and different and creative and dull ways. And what have we got? Have we got a nirvana of biodiversity? Of course we haven't. That way has failed. It's failed. So we need to find different ways of getting to yes. And that doesn't mean riding roughshod over European protections. It doesn't mean riding roughshod over the natural environment, but it means working with the natural environment to find ways of saying yes to sustainable development. So.
Just to pick up on that, we've obviously had a lot of experience in dealing with the Marine Consents Unit, which was part of the Welsh Government, and now NRW. And in all fairness to them, in all that time, they have been very proactive and trying to get our project consented, but to a large extent their hands are tied by European legislation. And I think that's the role of Welsh Government, is enabling the regulator to take more risk within that environmental legislation framework. But it does need that empowerment from government.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. And risk is something which all too often the public sector uses an excuse not to do anything. And I've said very clearly to my officials, if we take a risk and if we lose, so be it. However, that risk has to be analysed, understood, and then taken if we believe that's the right thing to do. And I was at the Environment Council of Ministers 2 weeks ago in Brussels, arguing for a framework for the development of renewables across the European Union, and we were very, very clear in doing that. There's no use in Environment Council taking those decisions if another Environment Council in later in the year is going to take another range of decisions which are going to frustrate and prevent that happening. But just to finish answering your earlier question, and I think it's a question which Nigel touched on as well, is access to finance. We need, as a government, to ensure that businesses do have access to finance where that's appropriate and access to support as well. One of the reasons why I mentioned the £800,000 grant to support and sustain trade opportunities in my speech earlier was to demonstrate that government can provide support into the sector in different ways, ensuring that there is a skilled workforce able to sustain growth and able to enable businesses to grow, but also that we look at how we can create financial models and special financial vehicles that will in themselves help individual businesses to make investments and to de-risk the operating environment. So we recognise those issues. They're issues we are systematically addressing.
Sue?
Thanks, David.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
I think I'm good. Hi, I'm Sue Barr from Open Hydro. We're a Thailand technology developer, and I just wanted to echo the previous comments. Absolutely fantastic voice for the industry there, and Minister, we're very impressed with your push to move this forward. And we know politically that in other jurisdictions without that support, we're not seeing development in marine energy. But one question I have, you're talking about de-risking the operational capacity of marine energy projects. And I wondered whether you had any comment to make on grid and grid liabilities. This is one area that a lot of the industry is looking at and understanding the cost and the risk of that. And we know that you have fantastic resource here in Wales, so I just wondered whether you have a view on grid and any actions going forward in the Welsh Government.
I met with the National Grid a couple of weeks ago to talk about some of the infrastructure issues within Wales. And clearly there are some issues there which are involved and some which aren't. But what we do have is a good relationship with the grid and with distribution companies, whereby we are looking at how we work together to ensure that we do have the sort of grid infrastructure that can enable growth to take place. Now that will be easier to achieve in some places than others, we know that. And we also know that we need a distribution network and grid connections to ensure that we don't only enable to grow the big major projects, but also that we're able to sustain and support smaller community-based projects. One of the things that I've made very clear will appear in the next Rural Development Plan in Wales is a distributed generation project, whereby we will be working with to ensure that there are the sorts of grid connections that would enable small-scale renewable developments to take place across Wales as well. We recognise that is an issue. We recognise that we do need to invest in making those connections and ensuring that we do have a sufficiently robust and strong grid infrastructure to enable people to actually make the investment and then to have a financial model which takes it forward. We recognise those issues, and I hope those issues are again some of the barriers that we are trying to address in this market.
Final question from Ian.
Good morning, I'm Ian Russell from Wave Dragon. I would just like to say, and may I say, when the Welsh Government gets the powers it needs over the waters around Wales, that you take that opportunity to decide how you want to move forward with consenting and with subsidies and with whatever funding you think is appropriate. And could I ask from us and the industry as a whole that we then simply stick to that decision? At the moment in the UK, every time a funding decision or a consenting decision is made and the final details are published, it seems that almost the very next day the politicians at Whitehall start discussing what's going to become next. And every time things change, investors put their hands back in their pocket and sit down and wait again. We welcome the 5 ROC level at the moment. It's great. However, for the future, we don't really care what we have to face. We just want to know what it is, and we would like it to stay the same. The uncertainty is killing us.
Yeah, I think that's true right throughout the energy sector and the energy industry at the moment. Energy is an industry that is regulated in different ways at all levels of governance, from here in Wales through the UK and then within the European Union. And I think we do struggle sometimes as politicians, wherever we happen to be, in actually creating coherence and consistency there. And as you might imagine, or might have guessed, I'm no great fan or supporter or lover of the current UK government. I won't exercise my views on UK government at the moment. It's one of the reasons why I'm hoarse at the moment. There are no illusions to my view. But can I say, notwithstanding that, we do work very closely together to ensure that we do try to have a coherence in place. We've had some very good conversations with the UK Secretary of State for the last few weeks about how we take forward this agenda and how we do create those a stable investment environment. I think it's fair to say that some departments in Whitehall share the same frustrations with the Treasury. The former Minister here can understand exactly what I mean in saying that we all feel entirely helpless at the intransigence and stupidity of the Treasury at different times. But we are arguing that case very, very fiercely within the government structures of the United States and elsewhere. And I hope that we will have coherence and stability going forward into the future.
Thank you so much for coming today. Really quite excellent.